I still remember the exact moment my life changed forever. It was a gray Tuesday morning in October, and I was running late for work. Again. The funeral procession had brought traffic to a complete standstill on Henderson Avenue, and I was drumming my fingers impatiently on the steering wheel, mentally calculating just how angry my boss would be this time. That's when I saw it. The hearse was moving slowly, respectfully, as these vehicles do. Behind it, a line of black town cars stretched for what seemed like half a mile. Clearly, this was someone important, someone wealthy, the kind of funeral that makes the local news. But something was wrong. Terribly, horrifically wrong. Smoke was beginning to curl from beneath the hearse's hood. At first I thought I was imagining it. Just a trick of the exhaust in the cold morning air, perhaps. But no. Within seconds the thin wisps became thick, black plumes. And then I saw the flicker, the unmistakable orange glow of flames beginning to lick up from the engine compartment. The driver seemed oblivious, probably lost in the solemnity of the moment, focused on maintaining that slow, dignified pace. The mourners in the cars behind couldn't see it from their angle, but I could see everything from my elevated position in my old pickup truck. My heart started pounding. Inside that hearse was a casket. Inside that casket was a person, albeit a deceased one, and presumably that person's grieving family was right behind, expecting to see their loved one laid to rest with dignity and respect, not turned into ashes in a vehicle fire on a public street. I didn't think. I just acted. I threw my truck into park right there in the middle of traffic, hazard lights on, and jumped out. I started running toward the hearse, waving my arms like a madman, shouting at the top of my lungs. "Stop! Stop the car! Fire! There's a fire!" People on the sidewalk stopped and stared. Some pointed, some pulled out their phones. But the procession kept moving, that slow, inexorable crawl toward the cemetery. I ran faster, my dress shoes, cheap ones, barely holding together, slapping against the pavement. My tie flew over my shoulder. I must have looked absolutely insane. A random guy in a rumpled suit sprinting after a funeral procession, screaming about fire. Finally, someone in one of the town cars must have seen me or heard the commotion. The procession began to slow, then stop. The hearse driver's door opened, and a confused-looking man in his 60s stepped out. That's when he saw what I was seeing. His face went white. "Oh my God," he breathed. "Oh my God." The flames were visible now to everyone. The smoke was thick and acrid. People were spilling out of the town cars, and I could hear screaming, crying. Panic spreading through the group like wildfire. No pun intended. "We need to get the casket out," I shouted. "Now!" The driver fumbled with his keys, hands shaking so badly he could barely fit them in the lock. Precious seconds ticked by. The heat was intensifying. I could feel it from several feet away. "Move!" I pushed past him, grabbed the keys from his trembling hands, and unlocked the rear door. The casket inside was beautiful, polished mahogany with golden handles, clearly expensive. It was also heavy as hell. "Help me," I called out. Several men in dark suits rushed forward. Together we gripped the handles and pulled. The casket barely budged. Again, 1, 2, 3. We heaved with everything we had. The casket slid forward 6 inches. The flames were getting higher now, and I could hear the crackling sound of fire consuming metal and upholstery. We had maybe a minute before this whole thing became an inferno. "One more time. Everything you've got." With a tremendous effort, we yanked the casket free and carried it away from the vehicle. We'd barely made it 20 feet when there was a loud whoomph, and the entire front end of the hearse erupted in flames. We set the casket down gently on the sidewalk, and everyone stood there, panting, staring at the burning vehicle in shock. Someone had called 911. I could hear sirens in the distance growing closer. That's when a woman emerged from one of the town cars. She was elderly, probably in her late 70s, dressed in an elegant black dress with a vintage brooch at her collar. Despite her age, she moved with purpose and grace. Her eyes, sharp, intelligent, and currently filled with tears, fixed on me immediately. "You," she said, walking straight up to me. "You did this. You saved him." I was still catching my breath, my heart hammering in my chest. I saw the fire. I couldn't just let. She reached out and took both of my hands in hers. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "You saved my husband. Even in death, you showed him dignity and respect. You risked yourself for a stranger you'll never meet. What's your name?" "Marcus," I managed. Marcus Webb. Marcus Webb, she repeated, as if committing it to memory. I'm Eleanor Ashford, and I will never forget what you did here today. The name Ashford didn't mean anything to me at the time. I was just glad everyone was safe, glad the casket was intact, glad I hadn't made a terrible situation worse. The fire department arrived and put out the flames. The funeral director arranged for another hearse. The procession continued, delayed but intact. I went to work 3 hours late, got written up by my boss, and thought that was the end of it. A crazy story to tell at parties. The day I stopped a funeral procession to save a corpse from a burning car. I had no idea my life had just taken a sharp turn in an entirely new direction. 3 days later, I received a call at work. The receptionist said someone named Eleanor Ashford was on the line and that it was urgent. Mr. Webb, Eleanor's refined voice came through the speaker. I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. I wanted to thank you again properly for what you did. Would you be available to meet with me tomorrow afternoon? Say 2 p.m. at my estate? Her estate. I should have realized then that this wasn't just any grateful widow, but I was young and naive. I agreed, thinking maybe she wanted to give me a gift card or something as a thank you. The address she gave me was in the most exclusive neighborhood in the city, the kind of place where the homes are set so far back from the street that you can barely see them behind their gates and manicured hedges. I drove my rattling pickup truck up to an iron gate with an intercom, feeling completely out of place. The gate opened smoothly, and I drove up a winding driveway that seemed to go on forever. The house, no, mansion, that finally came into view took my breath away. It was a sprawling estate that looked like something out of a movie, all stone and glass and architectural elegance. Eleanor met me at the door herself, ushering me into a sitting room that was more beautiful than any place I'd ever been in my life. She offered me tea, which I accepted with shaking hands, terrified I'd spill it on her pristine furniture. I've been learning about you, Marcus, she said, settling into a chair across from me. I hope you don't mind. I wanted to know more about the young man who showed such courage and quick thinking. I shifted uncomfortably. There's not much to know, ma'am. I work in data entry at Morrison & Associates. I live in a studio apartment in the Riverside district. Pretty boring life, actually. You're 26 years old. You graduated with honors from State University with a degree in business administration, but you haven't been able to find work in your field. You're working below your capabilities to make ends meet. You have student loan debt that's becoming overwhelming. And yet, when you saw someone in need, even someone who had already passed, you didn't hesitate to help. I stared at her, unsure how to respond. She'd clearly done her homework. My husband Richard was a brilliant man, Eleanor continued. He built Ashford Industries from nothing, a single manufacturing plant to a global empire. Hotels, real estate, technology investments. When he died last week, he left behind a fortune worth billions. Billions. The word hung in the air. I was having trouble processing this. He also left behind instructions, Eleanor said. Richard was very specific about his wishes. He believed in recognizing integrity and character when he saw it. He set up a fund, you see. A fund to reward acts of genuine heroism and selflessness. The board would review cases and determine recipients. She paused, looking at me intently. I've decided to invoke my authority as executor of his estate to make you the first recipient, but not just of the fund. I want to offer you something more significant. My mouth went dry. Mrs. Ashford, I don't need a reward. I just did what anyone would. But not everyone did, she interrupted gently. Dozens of people saw that fire. You were the only one who acted. That means something, Marcus. That tells me something about your character. She stood and walked to her desk, returning with a folder. I'm offering you a position, executive trainee at Ashford Industries. You'll work directly under our CFO for the first year, learning the business from the ground up. The salary is $120,000 to start, with full benefits, and the potential to advance based on your performance. Additionally, I'm establishing a trust fund in your name with an immediate deposit of $500,000 to help you eliminate your debt and establish financial security. I almost dropped my teacup. What? Mrs. Ashford, that's insane. You don't even know me. I know enough, she said firmly, and I'll know more as time goes on. If you prove to be unsuitable, we'll part ways. But I don't think that will happen. My husband had a gift for reading people, and I've inherited some of that ability. I see potential in you, Marcus. The question is, do you see it in yourself? That was 5 years ago. I accepted Eleanor's offer, of course. It would have been insane not to. The first year was grueling. 12-hour days, endless studying, learning the intricacies of a billion-dollar corporation. But Eleanor had been right about me. I had potential. More than that, I had drive. I'd spent years working jobs that didn't challenge me, didn't use my skills. Now, given the opportunity, I thrived. I absorbed everything like a sponge. Finance, operations, strategic planning, negotiation. The CFO, a brilliant woman named Patricia Chen, became my mentor. Eleanor herself took an interest in my development, often inviting me to dinners where I met industry leaders, investors, and influencers. Within 2 years, I'd been promoted to Director of Strategic Initiatives. Within 3, I was Vice President of Development. I spearheaded the acquisition of a struggling hotel chain that we turned around for a massive profit. I identified a tech startup that became one of our most valuable investments. The money was beyond anything I'd ever imagined. I paid off my student loans within the first month. I bought a house, a real house with a yard and everything. I helped my parents pay off their mortgage. I invested, saved, and yes, I spent some on things I'd only dreamed about before. But the wealth wasn't the most important thing Eleanor gave me. It was the opportunity, the chance to prove myself, the belief that I was capable of more than data entry in a windowless office. Last month, Eleanor called me into her office. She's 82 now, but still sharp as ever, still actively involved in the foundation she established in Richard's name. "I wanted you to know," she said, "that the board approved something yesterday. We're endowing a scholarship in your name at State University, the Marcus Webb Scholarship for students demonstrating both academic merit and exceptional character. Full tuition, room, and board. We'll award 10 scholarships per year." I felt tears prickling my eyes. "Eleanor, I don't know what to say." "Say you'll help me select the recipients," she replied with a smile. "I want your insight. You understand what it's like to have potential that just needs the right opportunity to flourish. People ask me sometimes if I ever regret stopping that funeral procession. If I ever think about how crazy it was to jump out of my truck and chase down a hearse in the middle of traffic. The answer is no. Not for a second. Was it risky? Sure. Was it impulsive? Absolutely. Did I look like a complete lunatic? Without a doubt. But in that moment, I didn't think about any of that. I saw someone who needed help, even if that someone was beyond caring about their own circumstances, and I acted. I did the right thing because it was the right thing, without any thought of reward or recognition. The fact that it changed my life so dramatically was never the point. It was just an unexpected gift from a woman who valued character and wanted to honor her husband's memory by recognizing it in others. Eleanor tells me often that I saved Richard's dignity that day, that I prevented his final journey from becoming a tragedy that his family would have to carry forever. Maybe that's true, but here's what I know for certain. Eleanor saved me. She saw something in a random 26-year-old guy in a cheap suit who was willing to do the right thing, and she gave him a chance to become more than he ever thought possible. Richard Ashford was a billionaire. He built an empire. He changed countless lives through his business acumen and philanthropy. And even after his death, through his widow's generosity and wisdom, he's still changing lives. Mine just happened to be one of them. So yes, looking back, stopping that funeral was absolutely crazy. I had no idea who was in that casket. No idea that my impulsive act of basic human decency would lead to all of this. But that's the thing about doing the right thing. You do it because it's right, not because you're calculating the potential return on investment. The fact that sometimes the universe rewards that kind of behavior, that's just a beautiful bonus. And every day when I walk into my office at Ashford Industries, when I review scholarship applications with Eleanor, when I mentor young employees the way I was mentored, I'm reminded of that gray Tuesday morning in October. I'm reminded that we never know when our choices will matter, when a single moment might define not just our character, but our entire future, when doing the right thing might change everything. I stopped a funeral procession 5 years ago. It was impulsive, it was crazy, and yes, it absolutely worth it. Not because of the money, though I won't pretend that hasn't been life-changing. Not because of the career, though I love the work I do. But because it connected me with a woman who saw my potential and gave me the chance to reach it. Because it taught me that character matters, that integrity has value, and that sometimes, just sometimes, doing the right thing when no one's watching can lead to extraordinary outcomes. Richard Ashford never knew the man who saved his final journey from disaster. But through Eleanor, his legacy lives on. And through that legacy, I've found my purpose. Looking back, I wouldn't change a thing.